biggest conversation room right now, quarterback room. There are currently 3 guys in a race. Really, you can honestly just say 2, but we're going to add the third in there just because he's a well-known name. He's come back to Carolina, has been there, was here for a few years before leaving to go to Arkansas. But we have Max Johnson, transfer from Texas A&M and also LSU, coming over from the SEC. 4-year starter in the SEC West, that is, the most powerhouse of the SEC. And also have Connor Harrell, a guy that's been on the roster for a couple of years now. Was in under Drake May and Jacoby Criswell, who we'll talk about right here in just a second. And a guy that was seemingly, after Jacoby left, going to be the heir apparent to Drake May. But due to some comments and questions and some concerns about Connor Harrell, they have brought in Max Johnson because he's a young guy. He's a young buck. He's only started in 1 game. I was at that game. The Duke's Mayo Bowl vlog is in our vlog playlist. You guys can check that out. But he played in that game against West Virginia. Thought he played fairly well until he got hurt, and then he was very limited. That and the offensive line was sitting here playing Olay. So he really couldn't do too much, unfortunately. But he's in there, but also the returning Jacoby Criswell, a guy who spent, I think, 3 years here before 3 or 4 years here before transferring to Arkansas back home and losing that starting that QB battle as well to a guy that's pretty nice stud over there. And now he has come home to UNC. Lot to talk about right here. Mack Brown's been asked about this a whole lot. They brought both Max and Connor to ACC Media Day, and I thought was great because in the discussions and the interview session with just the quarterbacks, they sat them right next to each other, not individually, not on their own. I'm like, boy, you guys are stoking the fire a little bit there. But quick thoughts. I'm going to start with Russ because he is the life of the party. Quick thoughts, and then we're going to get some Max, the esteemed guest. We're going to get some Matt comments right here in just a second. But quick thoughts, Russ, about the quarterback situation. What do you see so far out of this?
I think that all 3 of them are very capable. I mean, I really think that we can win with any 3 of them. They all bring different things to the table. Obviously, Connor is more of a dual threat quarterback. Max brings a ton of experience. And then you have the Jacoby Criswell situation, which, if he never left for Arkansas, right after Drake leaves to the NFL, we wouldn't even be having this conversation right now. He'd probably be QB1. So he's obviously a little behind the power curve, not, being in the spring like Max and Connor were. But I would agree that it's probably a 2-man race at this point. And they both bring different things to the table. And that's what the conversation is going to be about, is where does Carolina go from here? Do you go with, the dual threat side, or do you go with, the experienced pocket passer, who's played big time football in the SEC? I think it's a very intriguing conversation.
Now,
well, I'll start with Max. Everybody, we talk about dual threat, and granted, he doesn't have the superstar speed that Connor has, but everybody seems to, from what I've heard about him, sleep on his athleticism when he needs to go.
Yeah.
The problem is he's got that Sam Howell syndrome. He wants to hit the big play, and he likes to hold on to the ball too long, so he's prone to sacks. And the downside to that is he's never finished a season completely. He's never played an entire season his entire career. He's always getting hurt because he gets to the outside and thinks he's a scat back and tries to juke out a middle linebacker to the center of the field and just gets placked. Yeah. From what I've gathered, he's been the most consistent so far. I mean, we're literally talking about 1 practice in shorts in the fall.
Well, I mean, you got to add spring practice in too, I think.
Well, yeah. But coming out of spring practice, it was all Connor Harrell this, Connor Harrell that. Connor Harrell's got a real shot. But I think that was because Connor Harrell's been in this Chip Lindsey system longer than Max has. So Max has had time to play catch up. So his experience, I think, probably will eventually override his athleticism.
Yeah, as a guy that was at that spring game personally and kind of got to see these guys hands-on myself, you sat there and you expect Max Johnson to come in. Clearly, he's going to be the guy, right? Number one, yeah, you don't bring in a guy from the SEC playing starter minutes at Texas A&M and LSU. For all the criticism that Texas A&M gets, they still have a really star quarterback in what is it, Connor Weigman or something like
Weigman, yeah.
and LSU, you're in the quarterback room with Jaden Daniels. I mean, come on now. You're not going to keep those jobs. I mean, these guys are.
Right.
I mean, Jaden Daniels, what, second overall pick in the NFL draft this year. Weigman to be seen, but he looks like he's going to be a top pick somewhere.
Right.
So you look at it. You also add in the fact that he does like to hold the ball just a smidge too long, kind of a la, like you said, Sam Howell. In a sense, I kind of think him a little bit more like a Matt Stafford. Not as mobile, can move a little bit. He can move a little bit faster than Matt Stafford, but Stafford same way. As a matter of fact, being a Rams fan, I thought it was pretty cool. Mac Brown gave a Sean McVay quote during his press conference. Love that, absolutely. But you think Max is going to be the guy? Connor plays the bowl game. Now, I think, to me, that this is just me. You guys can have different opinions on this, but to me, he surprised me with his play in that game. The decisions that he made, obviously, you could see some ball placement was a little questionable at times, but he definitely flashed a little bit in what he could provide, both as a deep passer, especially that one down to J.J. Jones, and also his ability to be able to run before he got hurt. So he is a big question mark in my mind. Max Johnson, in spring, you could see a guy that hadn't played in the system and was learning the system. So I think Max, what we saw in the spring game was by far, if you watch just the spring game and you just watch that, I watched the full practice, everything, and you watch just the spring game, you're thinking, oh my God, Connor Harrell is it. He is the guy. Because I'm sitting there watching him throw 80-yard touchdowns back to back to back. I mean,
I thought the same thing.
I mean, he was flipping nuts watching him. And every single time he took the field, he was making the right play, making some impressive throws, and you said, "Oh my God!" But again, kind of playing with a little bit of a lead just because of the system. So now that we're in fall practice, I really do believe this is an even race.
Did we see? Did we all see the QB highlights from practice one?
Yeah. Yep.
That was. I don't.
So did we see
I
like
feel like
Connor
that was
Harrell
strategic.
practically? I mean, if Power Echols caught it, that was one interception. Then Connor absolutely just missed a ton of throws. And granted, I've heard that it was just a dink and dunk show.
Yeah.
Because whether the corners are just that much more elite than your wide receivers, or your quarterbacks can't throw the ball more than 20 yards down the field, actually, which is a concern, especially when you have Mario Hampton.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like that was because, and this is something I caught the end of Russ's live stream that he just did a little bit, or maybe it was the middle of it. I can't really remember. I was trying to do this and everything else, but he was talking about the quarterback situation and what you're talking about right there, and not being able to throw downfield. That's a concern. That's that and the fourth. I'm wondering. There's something lining up. If you watch that highlight film, you're thinking, "Oh my God, Orchon is screwed quarterback-wise." But you hear what every single pundit, people that tell the truth, guys like IC's Jason Staples, Tommy Ashley, they don't miss. Andrew Jones from Tar Heel Illustrated as well. He don't miss. He tells you like it is, just what it is. And Mack, for a degree, Mack's pretty honest. He's got a lot of coaches speak, but he don't mind telling the truth from time to time. It's hard. You're hearing a lot different. So I don't know if that was some strategic stuff, like, oh, here you go. Here's some film from the spring, so you can get. Hey, we're providing content for the viewer but we're not providing content and good quality content for Minnesota coming up in less than 30 days. So these two quarterbacks are in a neck and neck battle, and they are going to be judged by a few set of accolades and things that Mack and the coaching staff are going to hold him through. So right here is Mack Brown talking about the top 5 lists of what they are going to be grading the quarterbacks on. Let's take a listen.
Know the offense backwards and forwards so you can get us in the right play at the right time. Get the ball out of your hands and do not take a quarterback sack because we've had too many of those. It would be accuracy as a passer. It would be the ability to get the ball to the right guy. Don't just throw the deep ball if it's not there. Come down and get the ball to a really good player underneath. You don't get the big play every time, and take care of the ball. So those would be 5 of the maybe 7 things that we would ask them to do.
Credit to Andrew Jones and Tar Heel Illustrated for that film right there from the Mack interview from last night's practice. Alan, I'll come to you, and then Russ, you follow up. Alan, what do you think about that list? I mean, it seems short, sweet, and simple. What are your thoughts going in on it?
Well, like they said, Drake May's not walking through that door.
Amen.
So the main goal here, you don't want your quarterbacks to turn the ball over, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who said it? It was the golf reference. Was it Tommy and Jason that said it? Fairway green. Make the simple pass. Instead of trying to throw it in this tight window, instead of holding it for an extra second, hoping that go route breaks open, or hoping you can hit that big splash play to make yourself look nice. Just do the simple things. Get your 5 yards, get your 7 yards. You need what is the term for the pros? Game manager. You need a game manager. That's all you need.
Tom Brady, greatest game manager of all time.
You just need a game manager.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Criswell is going to struggle because he has turnover issues. He has fumbling issues. He fumbles a lot for a quarterback. So I think that's where Criswell is going to struggle. And you just need somebody to hit that simple 5 to 10 yard out route and just make the simple completions. You heard Mack Brown say, I was in the chat, so I didn't quite catch the entire clip he played, but he said that you don't waste plays giving the ball to people that can't score every time you touch it.
Right.
If they can't score every time they touch the ball, then they don't need to touch the ball, because you need people that can score every time they touch it. And I think we got a lot of those people on the team. But it's the quarterback's responsibility to get them the ball in a timely manner. Don't wait to, he's supposed to come open here, but I'm going to make sure he's open before I throw it, because by the time he's open and you throw it, well, then that gives the DB or the linebacker a chance to slide over in that gap and intercept it. You have to throw the wide receiver. That's what made Drake so elite. His anticipation was absolutely next level. We don't have that next level anticipation. They have to see the player running wide open, from what I've gathered, to be able to hit a pass or to complete a pass. And some of them passes still aren't being completed.
It's pretty
I yield
easy.
my time.
It's pretty good. And one thing that we have to remember, and it's been a long time since we've had to remember this, we have been blessed over the past almost 6 years now with Sam Howell and number 3 overall, Drake May. These guys know where to put the ball, how to put the ball, and if a guy's not open, I will throw you open, baby. That's just what it is. And, those guys could make some miracle plays. You wonder, like, man. Now, that's not to say that we don't potentially have that guy on this team. We don't know what Connor Harrell is just yet. Max Johnson, we'll see. We'll see how he fits in this system. and especially if the offensive line can give him a little bit of time to make some plays, and he don't have to take as many big hits, potentially not get injured. Who knows? Russ, tell me what you think about this grading list that they've got, and who do you think out of that is going to come out of it?
I don't remember if it was Jason Staples and Tommy Ashley talking about, but like you guys were alluding to, hitting the fairways and the greens, not trying to necessarily, hit the pin, from the tee. What does this team need? And I know that he hates the moniker, but it needs somebody that can manage the stinking game. And when we talk about, Connor's ability to hit on the deep ball, everybody knows he throws a great deep ball. My question is going to be, can you methodically move the team down the field? Because once again, with Omarion Hampton in the backfield, Darwin Barlow, God willing, Caleb Hood, who I think is one of the best running backs in the country, or it's at least in the Atlantic Coast Conference. When he's healthy, got a stable of horses back there that we can feed. We just have to be able to, keep teams from walking 8-9 into the box. And so, maybe Max Johnson is, what I'm looking at it from the outset right here, is the guy that can just put it on the fairway, man. Occasionally, you're getting your pars, you're not really getting a whole bunch of bogeys. I think what's interesting, just a little caveat off of that is, the kid has played 4 years in the SEC, and he almost has a 4-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. That's impressive, man. I mean, he's not Drake May. He's not Drake. But one thing that he does is he doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. And I think that that's where the experience factor is. He less sexy? Yes. 100% I'll admit that, man. But 4-to-1 touchdown interception ratio at LSU and Texas A&M, he's played under the lights. I can't imagine right now, that he wouldn't get that start 8 p.m. at Minnesota on Fox. I just think that he's been there, done that. So it just makes sense to me. It makes sense to me. And Connor comes in and, he has packages and he earns more and more playing time throughout the year. And, we can talk a little bit more about what that means if Max were to get the QB1 spot, because I know a lot of people are worried about Connor maybe leaving. But, I think that, Max Johnson is capable. That's and I know that that's not what people want to hear. They don't want to, after Sam Howell and Drake May, the last thing you really want to talk about is somebody who's capable. But I think Max Johnson, I think they're all capable, but he's going to put it on the fairway. He's going to put it on the fairway. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, nothing wrong. And you kind of segmented right into where I was wanting to go with it. Minnesota is less than a month away now. We are I think 29 days or something of that nature, 29, 30 days away from that 8 p.m. start. And who better, just like what you were talking about right there, you don't want teams to be able just to stack the box on you and just beat you. Mm-hmm. Guess who's going to be the perfect test? A Big Ten Minnesota team that is big up front, mm-hmm. and will absolutely smash mouth you at the line of scrimmage. And if you try and run on them, they're just going to laugh. That's just what it's going to be, unless you've got a passing game. So they're going to get tested right out of the gate with probably the best test you can have, quite frankly. The good news is they kind of have a taste of them already, having been and saw them last year inside of Chapel Hill, did the same exact thing. So the question for, can one of these quarterbacks keep the team moving? Well, we're going to find out very quickly, very fast in the first series how this thing is going to go.
You don't want none. I'm good.